Yeah.
Same.
So I'm going to record it. Okay. So we're recording.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. It says preparing. Let's see. Are we live? Reach more people. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Jeez. Oh, it says we're live. Okay, cool. Yay! Awesome. It's the technology piece is always really tricky. Well, welcome everyone. I'm super excited to be here with the incredible, not only is she a friend of mine, we've connected over the last few years and I just love and adore her, but superfood chef and author, Julie Morris. This is her book, Smart Plants. And she also has how many, 5 or 6 other cookbooks?
5 other ones, 6
Yeah.
6 kids.
6 kids, so her other books are all based on superfoods. And then the reason why I wanted to bring Julie on and talk about this is because this is based on Nootropics. Am I saying that right?
Either way, but okay. I say Nootropics.
Okay. And it's really about brain health, memory. I feel like a lot of us are really struggling with that today. And so I just thought it would be so awesome to bring you on so you could talk about your journey with, you know, your research you did with this book, because I know you put your heart and soul into it, and it's kind of a little bit of a departure from what you've done in the past, right? So why don't you just kind of share a little bit with us how you got interested in nootropics, what the journey has been and all of that.
Well, I think it's so wonderful that you bring up this idea that, you know, so many of us are feeling stressed and feeling like, is there something wrong with my brain? You know, why did I just walk into this room? Where are my keys? Oh, they're in my hand. You know, we're distracted, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed. And I certainly am no exception. That's part of the reason why I got into all of this. So just a little bit of a background, as you know, I've been a chef for over 13 years now, just working with superfoods, which isn't as far out there as it seems. Like, a lot of people are like, that sounds very LA. And I'm like, no, it's not just an LA thing, I promise. I work with foods that taste good and look good and all the same things that everybody wants. There's just one extra factor, and that's how the foods actually make you feel, how they function in your body. That's so it. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
So I've been working with these superfoods for, forever. And everything felt great, right? You know, I had lots of energy. I, started in this because I had chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was able to get over that through using different types of superfoods, and everything was going great, except for the fact that, if I was being really honest, I would say little things to myself like, I'm so absent-minded. Or, I'm so stressed, or a big one was I'm so anxious all the time. And the thing for me is that I thought this was just part of who I was.
Right.
I didn't see this as a problem. I didn't see this as like a symptom of poor cognitive performance. I thought it was just me. Right.
Yeah. Or just life, right? Like we can all feel just kind of overwhelmed with everything that's coming at us. I feel like there's more anxiety and depression than ever. People are having a harder time focusing, which makes sense because there's more information coming, but also, with what you're doing here, it's like changing your diet, adding these specific foods in can really help with that.
And that was the thing that I didn't even realize. And I actually came across nootropics accidentally. I work with a lot of interesting superfoods to say the least. And I was researching some, and some actually that I already had in my possession, just didn't really know everything that they were looking for for a project. And I came across this subject matter called natural nootropics. And it talked about basically how these superfoods, for lack of a better way of putting them, were specifically used to optimize brain performance, and had been well studied for this. All avenues of brain performance, your focus, your memory, your mood, your anxiety, your ability to learn new information.
Right.
And I was skeptical. I was like, I don't really think you can change those things too much.
Well, and isn't this like what Dave Ramsey was really moving toward with the coffee with the MCT oil and all that stuff, kind of these bio brain hacking things of more energy, more focus, all that stuff, right? But I feel like you've really, we'll talk more, but you've broken it down into like foods and natural and how to like really just include it in your diet.
I didn't want to cheat it. I didn't want it to be all just about supplements. I didn't want it, I certainly didn't want it to be just because you drank a lot of caffeine, because of course that's going to work. We all know that already, you know, but there's going to be a crash later.
Right.
And so like I started trying these natural nootropics for myself, and lo and behold, for me, the number one holy grail was a better memory. And I started to feel like information, it stuck a little bit more. You know, if somebody told me their name, I wouldn't forget it right away.
Right.
If somebody told me about like a new protein powder or something I should try, my brain would like file it away, and I could actually resurface it later when I was looking for it. And it was amazing to me. And once I started looking into natural nootropics as a whole, I realized there is a whole world of these superfoods, and they've been well studied, which makes it really exciting to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the actual definition, if you will, of a nootropic or even a superfood? I mean, I know they're kind of like symbiotic or whatever, but what is the actual definition?
So I define nootropics as brain boosting, cognition enhancing substances that can improve the way you think, feel, and function without side effects. And the last part is really important, because there's a lot, like coffee is a perfect example. And I'm not going to go there, but yes. I'm not going to go there. Coffee is fine, but coffee would not be considered a nootropic because it does ultimately tax your adrenal system. It taxes your body. You come down from coffee. That's, you know, it takes away from your neurotransmitter activity. That's not a nootropic. Real nootropics, they build your body. They boost your brain. Right. They do it in a way that's healthy and sustainable. Okay.
So is matcha a nootropic? Because that's what I'm drinking right now, and I love my matcha. And I know you and I have shared matcha many times.
I love matcha, and yes, matcha has a touch of caffeine, but it's about a third of a cup of coffee. So we're talking about a much smaller amount. Matcha is definitely a nootropic. It's a great one too. I use it a lot for focus, increasing attention span, and especially increasing creativity. It really helps with thought flow. And that's because it has a really special amino acid in it called L-theanine, which balances the caffeine out. So you get this boost of energy and mental stamina, but in a very calm setting. So it's like this kind of like James Bond feel of like,
it's like, I got this.
I got this, you know?
Whereas I don't know about for you, I know you're super sensitive. We talked about this, and for me too, when I drink, I'm not a coffee drinker, but when I used to drink coffee, I'd be like, right? Like just buzzing, and I felt like anxious, and it does not.
Everybody works differently with coffee. I know some people can drink quite a bit of it and not really have much of a reaction.
I know. Yeah.
Personally, over the years, it works worse and worse, you know, and I will still have it on occasion, especially with some really good coffee, or like
I'm with you.
You know, there's a time and a place. I just don't like to depend on it.
Yeah. And a lot of our society does, you know, and especially in the world of, we're not going to even go here, but intermittent fasting, like a lot of people who intermittent fast will just drink coffee in the morning. And to be honest, like that's probably one of the worst things you could do for your blood sugar. But like, we're not going to go there right now, because we're talking about all this other cool stuff. So let's just talk about, this book has, number one, not only is it so educational, but it's got incredible recipes as well, all created by this incredible chef here. And there's even sweet treats in here, which are amazing. These some almond cookies, and oh my God, we have to show a picture of this because it's beautiful. Look at that.
Ginger snaps.
So awesome. Oh, ginger snaps. Yes.
But they made almonds,
So let's talk about just kind of like if people wanted to start to increase brain memory or clear brain fog, what are some simple steps that, number one, get the book, we know that, but like, what are some simple steps or things that they can include in their diet to help them?
So the biggest factor, it's really broken down into 4 parts. Okay. The first is you need to make sure that you're eating some fat. Fat's really
Great.
important for basic brain function.
Okay.
Not all fats are created equal, so you want to make sure that you're getting healthy monounsaturated fats and a good balance of polyunsaturated fats, especially those omega-3s and especially DHA and EPA. So much of
Okay.
your brain is made up of fat, so it's crucial to have that on a regular basis, pretty much at every meal. Have at least a little bit of fat.
So is that like coconut oil, olive oil, flax oil, almond oil, like on salads, things like that?
Check, 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 check. Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Avocados, you know, like
Yes.
have almonds, have some hemp seeds.
Right. The actual foods, not just
Yep.
the oils. Yeah.
Yep. But
Yeah.
oils are fine too. Like just all of that is a big,
Awesome.
big party yes.
Okay.
The second thing would be to have some protein. Now,
Okay.
most of us love hearing about protein. They're like, great, tell me how much protein I should have. I'm going to have 400 grams a day. It's going to be amazing. I'm actually saying we probably need to eat a little bit less than most people think. Usually around 10% of calories. That's what many longevity experts recommend. But regardless of the exact percentage, protein is important for brain function. Those amino acids are really important for neurotransmitter activity and much more than that as well. So you want to make sure that you have some protein to help slow down blood sugar and balance out your meals. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
The third one is one that.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Go.
So you and I are very much on the trajectory of plants, right? And there's that whole kind of misbelief around people who are vegans or eat plant food don't get enough protein. So can you just touch on that really quickly? When you're talking about protein, obviously you're talking about any kind of protein, but like for you, what's the way that you get most protein in your diet through plants?
Well, I'll start out by saying that I haven't had any animal protein per se, with the exception of the rarest of occasions, since I was 14. So that's almost 25 years. You can do the math on my age. And I haven't missed it one bit. It's been real. That's been the easiest part of eating a plant-based diet, to be totally honest.
And you're still alive.
I'm still here.
I mean, you're healthy.
You can believe it? Doctors
figure.
It's so easy. Like, it's embarrassingly easy. Protein is everywhere if you're eating whole foods. And that's really the key. I don't need a lot of processed foods. Okay. So we're talking about, nuts, seeds, grains, many vegetables, even like leafy greens. Broccoli is a good source. You can even find protein in a lot of superfood fruits like goji berries and mulberries. It's not huge amounts, but when you're eating a meal, it adds up. It adds up. So every single time where I've gone out and actually tracked my protein and just to make sure, it's been more than it needs to be. It's been totally fine. And I'm not opposed to putting in like a good plant-based protein powder into a smoothie, especially if I've had a really hard workout. I find that that's really helpful. But that's not needed per se.
Right.
Super easy.
And I feel like when we're eating the actual whole food, our body assimilates it better. It kind of, it's more, it just nourishes our bodies in a different way. But I was a vegan for many, 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 many years. And now I consider myself like 99% plant-based, kind of like you, every rare once in a while. But I've never had a protein issue ever, so it's just, it's such a misconception, unfortunately. And, even with all the education out there, people still freak out about it. But that's why I just wanted to briefly touch on it, because that's a whole other subject. So so let's go to the next piece, because you're the 4 parts you're explaining.
4 parts. So the next piece, it's not going to be a big shocker for anybody, but it's just less sugar. Okay. Sugar is like the big S word when it comes to your brain. Your brain actually can lose brain cells. You can damage your brain cells. You're setting yourself up for inflammation and disease and unstable blood sugar levels. So just having that processed sugar on an absolute minimum is so essential. Of course, we're not talking about fruit here. This is a
Right.
whole food
Yes.
package.
Thank you for saying that. Yep.
Yeah, that has the fiber in it, that has the vitamins, that has the minerals, that has the
Right.
antioxidants. That's what we were designed to actually eat. But those
Yeah.
processed sugars, even the natural ones, I hate to say it, like
Yeah.
maple syrup or coconut sugar, those are better, but they're still sugar.
They're
So
still
we just
sugar.
kind
Yeah.
of
They're
minimize
still
them.
processed, really. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not nevers, but they're
Right.
less.
Right.
In the less category. And
Yeah.
the last one is just simply more plants
Yes.
overall. And I really like to emphasize that because I feel like regardless of where somebody is in their diet, whether they eat meat every single day or they eat tons of junk food or they've been, like a vegan for 20 years, just think about eating more plants overall and your
Yes.
health will improve, guaranteed. Your brain loves the nutrients that are found in plants, and plants are some of the most nutrient dense foods that we have available to us.
Yes. 100%. I love it. And I feel like, even, some people struggle and they're thinking like, what do I eat that's plants? It's like, just make a big salad every day, right? Like lots of raw leafy greens, and you can throw chickpeas in there, and you can throw nuts in there and avocado, and like you can make a meal right out of this really beautiful salad, and get lots of veggies in that too,
Throwing things in bowls is one of my favorite.
Me too. I love bowls.
Don't even call it a dish, just throw it in a bowl. It's a bowl now. Like,
Yeah,
what do you
I'm like
to eat?
quinoa, hummus, black beans, kale, like just throw it in a bowl.
And you're like, recipe.
Exactly. I love it. So fat, protein, plants, and what was the other one?
So some fat, some protein, less sugar,
Less sugar.
Those are your
And
4 little
more
guidelines to just an overall brain healthy diet.
Right. And then we get into the kind of natural nootropics, like, listen, you brought up the word neurotransmitters earlier, right? And most people kind of know what they are, but can you just explain a little bit about what neurotransmitters are?
So they're chemicals which are mostly found in the brain. They're basically like these little messengers.
Okay.
And they're telling your brain how to think and how to feel and how to function. So you have something like serotonin, which is this joyful neurotransmitter. That's what we associate it with. It has other effects and not all of them are good, but that's what we associate with serotonin the most.
Right.
You have something like dopamine, which is a little bit more pleasure oriented. Dopamine may be something that you experience after you go and find the perfect new pair of shoes. You're like, oh, it's a little high, and then it goes away.
Right.
Then you have other types of neurotransmitters which have different effects. So you have like acetylcholine, which is something that really helps with learning and memory.
Ooh.
Yeah. You have epinephrine, which is something that you may experience if you're being charged by a bear and you're trying to run away and you're freaking out, but you actually know that you need to go. So there's hundreds, possibly even thousands of types of neurotransmitters that are in our brain and in some cases in our body. And all of them have many different functions. And we shouldn't really look to control them per se, unless under doctor supervision.
Right.
But what we can do is support our brain and support our body to help produce them and fluctuate in them as needed. That's the goal. And that's what natural nootropics can really help us do. They offer us the tools to perform at our best.
I love it. It was interesting because when I was reading through your book, I was reading about dopamine, and I'm someone who I think a lot of my life I've struggled with. I wouldn't necessarily say full-blown depression, but I can go through cycles of mild depression. And so I'm always like, I need more GABA and I need more dopamine. And so when I was reading your book, I was like, oh my God, I bought the Sun Potion dopamine, and I was like, oh, and you were very clearly stating like, don't just start to take dopamine because it can have a really negative effect. And so a lot of people don't know that information. They think, oh, neurotransmitters are going to make me feel better, right? And then they start taking all this stuff, but have no idea what's really happening. That's the thing about when we start taking things, we don't really know what's happening. Sometimes we feel it, sometimes we don't. But I think I like what you're saying about eating foods to help your brain produce more neurotransmitters. You know what I mean?
And it's really, it's not
Right.
even sometimes about more neurotransmitters. It's really about this ebb and flow of
Balance.
neurotransmitters. It's like this little, like, you can picture it almost like waves of the ocean. You don't
Yeah.
want just
Okay.
like a high tide with like a high wave. The wave has to come down too. And
Yes.
that's what the ocean does. And that's what our neurotransmitters
Ooh.
need to do as well. And it's when we get stuck in a high or a low place that we start to feel
Right.
poorly and
Right.
start to get into trouble.
Is there is there anything in particular that depletes neurotransmitters? Is it genetic? Is it like lifestyle? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's many negative activities that deplete neurotransmitters. From a dietary standpoint, certainly excess sugar is a big
Yeah.
one. A
Okay.
poor diet overall, even things like trans fats are going to deplete neurotransmitters. But there's
Okay.
many lifestyle factors as well. You know, not getting a good quality of sleep,
Right.
obviously
Right.
drugs of sorts, and that includes legal drugs like caffeine. Too much caffeine will actually
Mm,
deplete neurotransmitters as well.
right.
So we really want to avoid these things, that essentially anything that would stress you out,
Yes.
whether
Stress.
it be something that you take or something that you do, is
Right.
going to have a negative effect on your
Yeah.
neurotransmitter function.
Yeah. So, and stress is so rampant these days. And I think everybody's running around stressed out. And then, of course, we have everything that's happening in the world and the news that's coming at us and all the information. And everybody's in just fear mode, buying up all the toilet paper and whatever they're doing because of the coronavirus. And so it's so interesting. We're having this conversation now while this is going on, right? And we're also stressed out. And this is such a timely conversation because I feel like, putting these things in your body is going to help you manage stress, right? Like it helps me along with meditation, like those types of things that can really support you. But I feel like learning how to feed yourself well is right. Cause that's where so much of our health comes from, or just our overall health.
And that's really the thing, is that, you know, I interviewed so many different types of experts for this book,
Yes.
purposefully, because I wanted a lot of different opinions. I didn't just want to, you know, chat with all my plant-based nutritionist friends and be like,
Right.
so
Right.
plants are really good, right? You know,
Right.
I wanted to
Right.
make sure that I was really covering my bases. And the
Good.
one thing that everyone agreed on is that A, healthy diet is one of the most important things you can do for your
Yeah.
overall wellness.
Yeah.
And B, plants are really important.
Yeah.
It does come down to plants.
Yeah.
Yes, we may disagree on some of the details here and there, but overall, eating more plants is going to help us on so many levels. And you're so right. I mean, the world is a little wacky right now. I think we can all attest to that. And
Yeah.
so that's why, in many ways, we need natural nootropics more than ever before. I mean, when
Yeah.
you think about it, like, human evolution is really slow, extremely slow. Our brain hasn't changed for over 10,000 years, not at
Right.
all.
Right.
Think how fast the world is changing now, you know, from 100 years ago, from last week.
Right.
Things are
Right.
always changing, and that's why we really do need to have a mental wellness plan as part of our overall game plan in
Yeah.
terms of how we're taking care of ourselves.
Yes. And it has to be really what I believe, and I know you probably believe this too, is on all levels, right? Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I'm working right now volunteering with therapy horses, and I'm working with teens who have mental health issues. And I have to say, like, seeing them with these animals and the transformation they've had in just 6 weeks is phenomenal, right? These are kids who have never been acknowledged or have been in psychiatric wards, and just to see their connection with an animal from an emotional standpoint and a connection standpoint, right? So like we need to be really giving ourselves on all levels. It's not just about food, even though food is really, really important, but when you think about your life, it's like, how do I support myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually,
And I think the exciting thing about this, and you know what you witnessed with these kids and the horses, is that sometimes the answers are really simple,
Yeah.
actually. So many of us, like, we live in this complex world and we're stressed out by it, But the answer to peace and tranquility can be profoundly simple. I
Oh,
think a lot of that stress comes from simply the fact that we're just, as humans, not really living in a way that humans were designed to live in the first
right,
place.
right,
We're more disconnected from than ever before. We're eating all these processed foods. We're surrounded by toxins. Not all these things we can control, but we
right.
can certainly make a little bit more time for ourselves, time for our family, time to pet a dog on the head or smell a flower. And it sounds silly. It sounds very, like, oh, woo woo, but it really does make a difference.
It
And
does.
you can look up studies that support all this.
Yes, 100%. And, to be honest, like my clients share with me all the time how they just feel like they're on this hamster wheel and they, that they're not really they're not living their lives in the way that feels supportive of their own joy and happiness. And every time I talk to them and ask them, well, when do you feel most joyful? It's like out in nature. It's always about nature, right? It's always about earth and us reconnecting to whether it's the ocean or the woods or water or whatever. I feel like you're saying it can be so simple, and sometimes just like getting ourselves out of our little world of this, right?
Yeah.
This box that we're in, that we're all watching us on now. It's like we have to be able to step away and nourish ourselves, not only through what we put in our mouths, but just on an emotional and spiritual level too, and the mental level, because the brain is, like you're saying, it hasn't evolved really. But then we have all this stuff coming at us that we're like, whoa, no wonder people can't focus,
No
It's
wonder
crazy.
burnout is considered an actual epidemic. Burnout.
Oh yeah. Crazy, crazy,
One
crazy.
of, one of the interesting facts that I found while I was researching this book, it's actually in the book as well, but on the subject of dopamine, we have more neurotransmitter sensors in our hands, in the palms of our hands, than
Ooh,
anywhere else in our body. Feet would be a close number two. And
wow.
so when we work with our hands, and this can be anything at all, and I mean like cleaning out your car, sweeping the kitchen floor,
Wow.
gardening, it can be something practical or it can be something fun, but just working with our hands produces more of those happy feeling, pleasurable chemicals in our brain than anything else we can do.
That is so cool. I did not know that. That's really cool. And I'm sure that I probably read that in the book and I forgot. So thank you for sharing that. So that's like something I feel like, well, and if you look back, right, many, 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 many moons ago, that's all we did was work with our hands. That's all we had, right? And we started to build tools with our hands.
Yeah.
Everything was done by hand, and now it's all done by machines. And so
And it
no
makes so
wonder
much
we're,
sense because
yeah,
dopamine is a motivator. That's what it was
yes,
originally designed for human beings. It's like, make sure that you hunt and gather and build shelter and procreate and just do the things that you like have to do, and we're going to make that feel really good for you so that you continue to do it. Now that we've
yeah,
removed a lot of that, that's part of the reason why some of us feel like, I've lost my joy, I've lost my
yeah,
north, I don't
yeah,
understand. And some of it just comes down to doing a few more things with your hands, even
right.
taking up something like crocheting or
Right.
painting,
Not
or
not scrolling on your phone. That doesn't count.
doesn't
Even though
count.
that gives you the
That doesn't
dopamine
count.
hit,
Has to
but
be
like,
tangible.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you're saying this, because I love to be creative, and I just signed up for the last 5 years. I've been looking at these classes at SBCC, but art classes, and I just signed up for a drawing class that I'm starting.
Oh, how
And I
fun.
love to be creative, but it's almost like I forget or I don't make time for it. And so I was like, that's it. I'm going to take a class, because at least I know I'll go, I'll be inspired, I'll be removed from my day to day. Right. And so I think that what you're saying is like, get out there, start working with your hands, get in the garden, go out and hug a tree. I love like just being in nature and touching things. But
Yeah.
I love that idea of working with you. That's such a simple thing, right? To work with your hands to create more neurotransmitters in your brain. That's amazing.
Rather than taking something.
Right. Exactly. And even your feet, right? Like, I think that's why people, like when you walk barefoot on the grass, I know for me,
Oh,
it's like, oh,
the
it's
best.
like this, right?
Or if you take your shoes off at the beach, you're like,
And you touch the sand, it's like, oh, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always imagine that scene in Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and she makes him take he's like this stiff businessman. She makes him take his shoes off and walk in the grass. He's never done that in his life. And he's like, this is amazing, you know? So anyway, there's so much to be said for that. So anyway, you guys, listen, I highly recommend that you get this book. It's incredible. Julie spent, how many years did you spend researching?
3 years.
3?
3 years.
Yeah. She spent 3 years researching everything to write this book. Plus her recipes are incredible. And she's also got superfood smoothies, superfood soup, superfood, I mean, all kinds of great superfood cookbooks. If you look her up on Amazon, oh my God, look at this berry almond amaranth porridge. I mean, that just looks so incredible.
So that'd be a really good one for spring right now.
Oh yeah. That seasonal, that's another thing, right? These recipes.
Everything is seasonal. Yeah. There's one section in there that's just rituals. And these are like very simple.
I love that.
Smoothies, lattes, and energy bites, things that you can make in 5 minutes or less, but they're designed to be highly functional foods that you can enjoy every day.
I love it. Okay, so how have, just one more question, how have nootropics changed your life?
They've significantly changed my life.
Yeah.
I use nootropics for several reasons. And I will say it is different for everyone. And I think that's part of the exciting part. And you can use the book as a tool to kind of find your own path, choose your own adventure. I use nootropics to boost my memory, which they have. And it's so exciting. Like,
that's so
I'm not saying I have world's best memory. I'm not going to win any kind of memory championship, but for me, this is so much better. This is so great. The second thing is anxiety. I struggle with anxiety.
Oh, yes.
I'm a high stress person who likes to get a lot done, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, and that creates anxiety. Okay. So really working on that. And of course there's lifestyle factors too, like meditation, that help. But working on that with nootropics has been very, very significant. One of the big ones for me was ashwagandha. That was a big turning point in terms of that.
Yeah.
And then the last one is where I use nootropics a little bit more intermittently, because I don't need this every day, but sometimes I need a little bit of a focus boost, or a little bit of a creative boost.
Yes.
Or I'm trying to learn some new information, you know, like learn a new language, or I'm in a book where I'm like, I don't just want to read this, I want to know this, right?
You want it to soak in.
I want it to soak in, or even my mood, you know, like I get super grumpy and I'm like, this needs to change. Then I'll start using other types of nootropics kind of as supplements, or just make a proper smoothie with them, or a recipe with them. And those are really, really helpful as well. And it's just, for me, it's so exciting to see how malleable our minds actually are, and how much potential we all have to be, I hate to say it, but a little bit smarter. And it's so exciting. It's like we're all sitting on that.
Right.
We have it, you know, it's in there. We just need to access it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've started playing around a little bit. I've taken, so I struggle with anxiety too. It's off and on, and I definitely lean on ashwagandha and those types of herbs that are really great for anxiety, adrenals, all that stuff. But I've also noticed, so I've been playing around a little bit with the bacopa and the rhodiola, which is the one that you talked about for kind of memory, right? Like building more memory. And so I've been kind of playing around with that. And I've noticed, I don't take it all the time, but I've noticed that the mornings I do take it, I get a little bit more focused, and I'm just really kind of more like, oh, like it doesn't feel like I have to think so hard, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been really cool, because I don't know about you, but I'm the person who can walk in a room to go do something and go, what did I come in here for? Right? Like as I'm getting older, that's happening more. And I don't have kids, so I can't blame it on like kid brain or pregnancy brain or anything like that. But like I walk in a room and I'm like, what was I doing? Or I go to open like a Google, you know, page to search something. I'm like, what was I going to search? Right. But that's kind of the nature of today, like because of all the information coming at us all the time. Right. So I know that it sounds like these will really help, like this kind of eating better, the four pillars that you were talking about, all this stuff can really help with that.
Exactly. The four pillars can help us all gain a healthy mental state overall.
Yes.
And then you can kind of sprinkle in the nootropics to start looking at some of the individual issues that you may be struggling with.
Right.
We
Yeah.
all, let's face it, we all have something.
Yeah.
All
We
of
do.
us.
We do.
Whether it's like not sleeping well at night,
Yeah.
or anxiety, or an inability to like stay on track, or a learning problem of sorts, and not everything has to be huge either. Sometimes it's just a frustrated feeling where you just feel like you're squeezing your brain a little bit more than maybe you really need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so awesome to know that there's supportive, natural, right, ways to help ourselves with this stuff. And, of course, my recommendation, and I'm sure Julie agrees, is like educate yourself, get the book, read about this stuff. Don't just go like get online and start Googling everything.
Yes.
And then buying a bunch of stuff that like
Yeah.
you don't even know how to use or what, right? So it's like read the book, start with the food, start with the four pillars, right? Because that's just that kind of overall approach that will really help brain health. And then, like you said, if you want to sprinkle these things in and kind of experiment and see how you do with them, because everyone's so different,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody is so different. And when you do find the ones that work for you, which you will, it's the most exciting thing. You won't become a genius overnight, but even if you can elevate your intelligence by a couple of percentage points, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. And also, I think something that's also good to pay attention to is like knowing ourselves and what time of the day also that we are most productive or that our brain is most sharp. For some people, that's like in the evening. For some, it's like, for me, it's the morning, right? So it's like, I'm just like, much better in the morning. But a lot of that has to do with lifestyle and sleep and the things we're putting in our body. But also, I think just some people naturally are more creative at night or more creative in the morning or more focused at certain times of day. So also knowing yourself, right? And using that as part of your gauge about how you approach this as well. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would agree to that so much. And you and I have talked about too, just the importance of intuitive eating overall.
Yes.
And I know that it's so cliche to say, listen to your body, but I'm just going to say it again. Listen to your body.
It's not cliche. It's not cliche.
You know when you feel good.
Yeah.
You know when there are things that are missing.
Yeah.
And the important thing is to note that when you're not feeling well, regardless of in terms of what area it's in, like that can be changed. You can make a positive impact on that aspect. And that's the exciting thing. We have so much health potential in our own control.
Right.
We really do. I'm not saying that like there's never a time and a place for medicine, because of course there is. Of course there is.
Yeah.
But there is so much of a head start at least that we can get. And for the average person, we just need a little boost. Just and that could be so
and I mean, that's what got me into plant-based eating, is because when I was growing up, I was so sick all the time. I had no immune system. I was like constantly struggling with strep throat and pink eye and viruses and this and that. And so when I started to eat plant-based and eat more vegan, I just stopped getting sick. Like all that stuff kind of went away, and I too struggle with chronic fatigue just because of the overload of viruses in my body. And so it's something I have to manage, but in the day to day, it's like, I'm not catching colds like I used to. I'm not like that stuff doesn't really, it's not a factor anymore. And I'm a big believer it's because of how I take care of myself, what I eat, all of that.
100%. And, like to your point, there is no such thing as perfect health for anybody.
No.
We all have our weak spots. We all are addressing certain concerns. And what we do is still going to have a very, very important impact. And just the fact that, you're not getting sick anymore, you may still have a few symptoms of chronic fatigue from time and time again, but you're not getting sick. You're having good energy for the most part during the day. You're able to like do the things that you love.
Yes.
Pain.
Yes.
this is huge. And of course it's because of the things that you're consuming and putting in your body.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the same for me. I mean, like I was eating so well and my mind wasn't computing everything.
Quite there.
It wasn't quite there, you know. I would sit down to write something and I'd be like, where was I going with this sentence?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like go off into the distance a little bit.
Oh man, been there.
It's frustrating. And so to be able to alleviate some of that and actually see tangible results, that's the life-changing aspect, you know. And it's something, what makes it so exciting as well is the fact that it's not just a detox, it's not just a diet, it's not just a cleanse. This is not something that you do for like 5 days,
30 days, right?
Change, you know, everything is rainbows and unicorns. It is more of a lifestyle, but it's a very sustainable practice, and it's something that you can accrue and build upon for years.
Yeah, it's sustainable and supportive for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I just want to quickly say I was talking to a client today and she was sharing about, because I just want to touch back to that piece of sugar, because she was talking about how when she had started to eat more sugar lately and she noticed she was getting migraines, and whenever she eats sugar, she kind of feels it almost build up in her body, and then she starts to get migraines and she starts to feel cruddy, right? And then there's all the kind of emotional attachment we have to sugar, which is the deep work that I do with my clients, and that's a whole other thing. But like when you were saying, it sounds so cliche, listen to your body, it's 100% not. It's the most important thing, right? Because her body's giving her feedback. And then it's about, do we listen and do we respect our bodies? Because that's the big piece. It's like, how do we honor and respect our bodies? Because we only have one. It's only here for, right? It's carrying us around and we only have one. And so we got to take care of it. Because as we get older, if we're not taking care of our bodies, it's going to decline. And, you know, and we need to be making sure we're engaging in these healthy kind of lifestyle activities.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I always like to ask myself when I have some sort of like naughty craving, you know, is it worth it? You know, because there's certain foods that I know don't make me feel good.
There's consequences.
They don't make me feel good. End of story. And it's a little bit different for everyone. Of course, there's some that are across the board, like sugar's pretty much a big one.
Yeah.
You know, like I was speaking to an acquaintance the other day and she was talking about gluten, you know, and I personally am very fortunate. I don't have a problem with gluten. I really don't.
That's awesome.
I just don't, but I know that I'm fortunate and many people do. And she was saying how whenever she has a piece of bread, a piece of like high gluten bread, you know, she feels terrible for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And I couldn't help it. I'm like, then don't eat it. You know?
I know.
And I know it's not always that easy. I understand that, you know, we all make poor choices at certain points. We all give in. But the good thing is that we always have the opportunity of the next meal.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The next choice, right? What's our next choice?
Then make the next choice really good. That's it.
Yeah.
Then have a salad next. You know?
Exactly. Oh. Well, this was so lovely. Is there any one last thing you want to share or say, or I don't know, piece of wisdom to leave everyone with? No pressure.
I would just say to everybody watching, like ask yourself if you truly feel 100%. Are you satisfied with the way that you're able to think or process emotions or your creativity or your productivity or your ability to learn new information? And if the answer is even a shaky no, then decide today to make a positive change in your life and in your diet to support your mind. Yeah. Because we really do have so much potential. And I should mention too, if you go to my cooking school, which is called,
I wanted to mention your cooking school. Thank you.
It's a superfood culinary education center, right? So we offer classes, we offer recipes, tips. It's really fun. It's called Luminberry. That's LUMINBERRY. So Luminberry, like the yummy berry. Luminberry.com. You can actually go there and get a free 7-day Smart Plants challenge.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I wanted to make sure I brought this up. So thank you so much for saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you'll get 7 days delivered directly to your inbox of tips and tricks and tools of how to incorporate all of these important concepts that we covered today
So good.
right away.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
you have amazing cooking, like lessons on there, courses on there that, like, if you're interested in learning how to cook with superfoods, there's courses on there. The site is amazing. So lumenberry.com.
Nootropics on there. We have
Yes.
a amazing raw chocolate course for the
Oh,
chocolate lovers out there.
yeah.
We have an immunity boosting soups course, which is very good for right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And many, many more.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. Yeah. So thank you so, so much for being here. You guys go out and get this book because it's amazing. You know, I mean, I don't promote things very often, but when I find something that is like speaks to me, and of course I love Julie, and I feel like what she's put her heart and soul into this, and it's so just powerful and important right now. And so thank you for doing this. Thanks for being here today. It's been so lovely.
This is
Yay.
awesome.
And we have to make a matcha date soon.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Don't have to ask me twice.
All right. Thanks, honey. We'll talk soon. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.